All right, parents, let's talk about teenagers. Let's talk about big emotions. Let's talk about anxiety. Let's talk about just exhaustion and teen burnout. Let's talk about the old attitude conversation. We're going to get into all of it with this educational video right here. Parenting a teenager is tough. Parenting, period, is tough. And what makes it even tougher is when our kids are sick, when they're stressed, when they're anxious, when they're depressed, when they're having behavioral challenges, or whatever it may be. Parenting teenagers has never been an easy job, but it's made so much harder because of how stressed out, how burnt out, and how dysregulated not only are we as parents, but they are as teenagers. This is a crazy world. The teenage time has always been a tough time. They're still growing, not just the physical growth spurts, growing pains conversation, but they're really growing through their emotions, through their socialization, through their cognition. There are so many things within their nervous system, and we're going to get into this video. We're going to really actually break down the science of teenage burnout, exhaustion, anxiety, depression with this video. You may have thought that when they were your baby and your baby wasn't sleeping through the night, that is tough. You may have thought when they were toddlers, still figuring things out, and you got to watch them 24/7. That is tough. The truth is, parenting just in general is tough. Now make it twice as hard, 10 times as hard, because their nervous systems are tanked. See, today, too many teenagers are unhealthy, period. Their neurophysiological systems are way off track and out of balance. So, whether we look at the stats or the science like we're going to in this video, that's what we've got to figure out. So, the American Psychological Association just came out with a report that said one third of teens report feeling tired every single day. 31% constantly feel overwhelmed. 30% reported feeling depressed or sad as a result of stress. Do you know that during the school year, teenagers actually report higher levels of stress than we do as an adult? So, what's going on? Now, there's two ways to look at this. We can blame what they're up against, making new friends, not easy. Being involved with getting your grades up, getting into sports, getting into extracurriculars, keeping up with the schedules that teenagers keep, not easy. Dealing with the hormones and the changes that are happening, not easy. Dealing with technology and social media and everything they're exposed to today. Everybody likes to blame that one, and it's part of the perfect storm, but it's not easy as well. But we can't put our teenagers in a bubble. We can't protect them. They're not in that toddler stage anymore. We have to help them adapt. We have to help them become more resilient and build up their capacity to handle stress so they don't get stuck. They don't get so burnt out. So they don't get so anxious and they don't get so depressed. And that is the opposite direction that most of medicine or most of healthcare takes. They like to blame genetics for anxiety. Traditional medical theory still blames genetics for anxiety, ADHD, depression, and these things. They still blame it as a chemical imbalance instead of looking at what's actually causing that imbalance. I really want to break down the science behind your teen's burnout, dysregulation, anxiety, and depression, and give you the answers you've been searching for to help them get more energy, to get them more energized, get better sleep, regulate their mood, less anxiety, and more positivity. And here's the two key words in this whole video and every piece of content we make is without drugs, without medication. So first off, like we've already covered, it's more than just being a teen. As you've seen your kiddo be constantly exhausted, constantly anxious, and constantly worn down, if your mom and dad gut goes, there's something more going on here than them just being a teen, I want you to lean into that gut instinct and that innate parental feeling that you have right now and go all the way through this video and take the action after. Because you're right, anytime your mom and dad radar goes off and says, okay, the rest of society says this is just normal, my baby is not supposed to sleep through the night and just be fussy all the time. That's why medical doctors say colic is normal, they'll grow out of it. Not the case. Teenagers are supposed to be moody and anxious and upset and dysregulated all the time. Not true, not the case. If your gut says something's up here, something is up. And there's things you can do to help it. The second thing I want to really break down is what is the root cause? Well, the way that the nervous system works and our nervous system regulates our mood, it regulates our emotions, it regulates our energy. So when we're talking about burnout, exhaustion, anxiety, depression, we're having a neurologically focused conversation. When medicine says that it's the neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin, adrenaline, cortisol, and all these things that get out of balance that cause behavioral and emotional and mental health disorders, well, they're only halfway to that root cause. The theory of scientific neurotransmitters and chemical imbalance is accurate, but it is incomplete. The word neurotransmitters actually gives us the answer where we need to look and where we need to help our teens get better. Those transmitters transmit messages for the neurosystem. So the central and autonomic nervous system has two modes. It's got our gas pedal, our anxiety, and our fight or flight mode. Your teenager, it's natural, it's normal, it's healthy to be in that mode in the middle of taking a test. You want their senses to be heightened. You want their focus to be extra. In the middle of a basketball game, in the middle of a performance, it's natural to have some sympathetic fight or fight, what's called tone, and just amped up a little bit. The challenge is our kids have been so stressed for so long. We call it the perfect storm. They were stressed as an infant. They were sick all the time. They've been on antibiotics that have destroyed their gut brain connection. The gut absorbs 80 to 90% of serotonin and dopamine and connects through the vagus nerve to the brain. So if their gut's a mess, their nervous system is a mess. They've been stressed for a long time. And I know in a general construct, we think of stress as a grown-up problem, but it's a pediatric and it's definitely a teenager problem as well. So this buildup of chronic stress actually started way before the teenage years. 90% of case histories on teenagers, that we take in with Asperger's, autism, anxiety, depression, absolutely 90% had a really stressful early childhood and the full childhood journey. So their early years were really thrown off track with their development. And there were sensory processing challenges, speech delays, motor challenges, chronic constipation, and immune challenges. Kids have been stressed and sick before they hit the teenage years. What's happening to our teenagers is they're going through what we call falling off the sympathetic fight or flight nervous system cliff. Now, what does that mean? It means that our gas pedal, our fight or flight protective response that our kids naturally, innately have and need is supposed to be activated short term and then turned off. They're supposed to live most of their childhood life in growth and development, relaxation, regulation, learning mode. And instead, kids today are stressed and they're stuck on fight or flight 24/7. So by the time they reach the teenage years, if you're on the gas pedal all the time, you eventually run out of gas. And that's what's happening with our teens. Their neurophysiological resiliency and adaptability is just flat out worn out. So there's 5 places that it first shows up. It shows up sleep. Number one thing that teenagers are struggling with, the reason they're exhausted all the time, is that even if they're sleeping late and doing all the things we kind of again traditionally complain about, it's not the quantity of sleep only, it's the quality of sleep. And when a teenager's nervous system is what's called stuck in subluxation, meaning stuck on the sympathetic fight or flight dysregulation all the time, they're not getting high quantity sleep, and maybe they aren't getting high quality sleep either. So if your teen takes forever to fall asleep, if they wake up constantly through the night, that is a sure sign that their sympathetic fight or flight system is stuck on it's subluxated, which again is a word that means that fight or flight stress mode is stuck on nervous system dysregulation, which is what causes teen burnout and all of the challenges that we're talking about. The real first sign of it is sleep disturbances. And the second sign that shows up, it shows up in their gut. The study I was talking about before, the American Psychological Association said that a third of teens also reported skipping a meal because their stress was so high. So, what happens is the gut and the brain are connected through something called the vagus nerve. It will show up in the gut. They just don't get hungry. They don't feel good. So we've always kind of nicknamed this as nervous stomach, but if you've had it all the time, so this can lead to not just short-term eating challenges, skipping a meal, or making horrendous dietary choices, which again is something we just chalk that up as that's a normal teenage thing. They're gonna eat like crap. They're gonna go to Panda Express, have the Rockstar energy drinks and Red Bulls. Yeah. If their nervous system is depleted and exhausted, of course they're gonna go after that short term. It's actually worse for them as a band-aid fixes. So that's why we're dealing with all this stuff. It's not what they're naturally programmed to do. Every single human being, period, no matter their age, when their nervous system is balanced, is actually attenuated to eat healthy foods, healthy fats, healthy proteins. So if your kids are making poor dietary choices and complaining of gut issues all the time, that's a sign of their nervous system being stressed out and burnt out. The third sign is actually physical pain. Do they constantly crack their neck or rotate their spine and try to crack their spine? People always ask a chiropractor, do you hate that? I do. Not because of the physical bony muscle component. It's a sign of the nervous system, really just the stress just buried into that person or that teenager. And where there's nervous system stress, subluxation first going to show up, well, it's in our neck and in our shoulders. And our teens get worn out. No wonder they're addicted to not only Red Bull and bad food, but technology. Because this fight or flight sympathetic nervous system, guess what the phone is? It's more fight or flight. Guess what that sugar is? It's more fight or flight. Nerves that fire together, they begin to wire together and they get stuck there. So they actually get stuck in a vicious cycle, or what we call the perfect storm. They actually start to crave the things that keep them stuck there. The way we're designed, the way God designed us, is nerves that fire together, wire together. I've said that a few times in here. That can be used for good, or in this case, it can lead to really unwanted outcomes as well. The fourth sign is going to be, that classic irritability, agitation, big mood swings. If their mood, their energy, their emotional status is more off base than your mom and dad got, like we've talked about before, feels like it's abnormal, it is abnormal. And it's something that when we get to these action steps, you really want to take and go forward with to help them out. And the fifth one, and besides the mental and emotional agitation stuff, is again, like we talked about, they're just dysregulated all the time. Their mental health, their focus, their concentration. So it's the emotional side, and kind of separating out here the fifth one, the mental. So do they have brain fog? Did they used to love school and thrive and now they struggle? Well, that's a sign of their nervous system being out of balance and tapped out as well. So what does all this mean? What can we do to help our teenagers without medications? I'll just cut right to it for the action step. Adjusting teens helps them immeasurably. While this is often not the first thing parents think of when their teens are struggling, but for literally thousands and thousands of kids each year, it's where they finally find relief and results. And I know this is a longer, nerdier video than maybe you'll find for most people who would talk about teen burnout and go, it's the social media, it's their phone's fault, it's the Red Bull's fault, it's and medicine would go, it's genetics fault, it's dopamine and serotonin and a chemical imbalance. There's nothing you can do. Give them medications. Yeah, well, those wear out over time. Now kids need more. They get addicted to them. The side effects are nasty. We're talking about getting to the real root cause and drug-free natural options for your kiddos with teen burnout and exhaustion. And so the first thing we do is we get kids neurologically focused adjustments. Our kind of chiropractic knows exactly where the subluxation and these tension and exhaustion points are, and we know how to make them wildly safe, wildly effective adjustments to release that sympathetic stress and to stimulate what's called the vagus nerve, which is the social, emotional regulation side of the nervous system, the rest, digest, relax, and regulate side of the nervous system. So when you take your teen to a neurologically focused chiropractor, like at Rising Health, it's a totally different kind of chiropractic adjustment than one for, grown-ups, old people with back pain, okay? It's a neurologically focused adjustment designed to take the sympathetic fight or flight stress down that has been running their life for too long and has run them down and boost up their vagus nerve and parasympathetic tone. And the other beautiful thing about caring for teens is we don't just adjust them, but we have a cheat code in terms of empowering and educating and getting them interested and engaged in their own healing process and their own health and making better diet choices, making better sleep choices, making better lifestyle choices right now. We get to cheat as their trusted doctor, their pediatric and family chiropractor, because we're not their parents. Have you ever noticed that other people's kids listen to you better than your own kids? Actually, this isn't just a teenager thing. I find that to be with all kids of all ages. Well, we get that job as chiropractors for a teenager. And so you better believe we take our job seriously, helping your family, helping your kids. We know how much you want to see them smiling again. We know how much you want to see them sleeping again and able to regulate their emotions, get rid of their anxiety, beat their depression without medication. We know how much you want to see your kiddo, your teenager, go from struggling to thriving. And we've been blessed to be the catalyst, to be the chiropractor that helps get the job done in partnership with parents and other providers. And the cheat code we have is we get to know them. We build a really great relationship with them. We ask them, what are your goals? What do you love? What would you do all day if you could? And we anchor them getting healthier to that. We don't tell them something's wrong. We don't tell them you're out of balance, you're broken, your genetics are garbage, you're going to be depressed your whole life, you're going to be anxious your whole life. Your aunt was depressed and your grandpa was anxious, so boom, it's genetic. We don't let our teenagers have a victim mentality. We empathize with them, and then we empower them. And then we engage with them and we get them moving forward. We get them to take proactive responsibility with their health. Now, again, you're thinking, that sounds too good to be true. Well, the first step is our cheat code to the second step. When a teenager gets adjusted, they feel incredibly better because their nervous system functions incredibly better. There's a word, last word in this whole long video called momentum. Your teenager has negative momentum right now. They're getting worse. They're getting more exhausted, more emotional, more anxious, more depressed. Adjustments done by a neurologically focused chiropractor build momentum. It's the natural neurophysiological effect of an adjustment done correctly. It can't not happen. We know that's happening. So we start with that and then we build the education, then we build the empowerment, then we build the teenager into the plan with them. And we see these kids go from struggling to thriving. If you need those two things in your teenager's life, neurologically focused adjustments to just release and get rid of the stuck stress on their nervous system and restore and boost their healing, social, emotional, and regulating system, and you want a doctor who's not going to tell your teenager everything that's wrong with them, but instead focus on everything that's awesome with them and get them moving towards that, which also gets them moving away from their struggles, then Rising Health is the place for you. Comment below, get connected with us, send us a DM, follow the links, go learn more. We have tons of articles all about the science and all the neurology that I talked about here. If you need even more information than this video provided, but if you're just ready to get your kiddo that drug-free hope, answers, and help you've been searching for, scrolling for, praying for, I think if there's one group of kids that you really see the power, really see the transformative, just the beautiful aspect, just of what neurologically focused chiropractic care is all about, it's teenagers. They deserve it today. They so need it, and I'm so glad you found it with this video. So comment below if this was helpful. Please share this with the other families of teenagers who need this detailed, sciencey, but real life conversation from one dad, from one parent to another. So thank you for watching this. Thank you for doing all you do for your teenager to thrive and be healthy. Thanks for sharing this, and we'll see you in the next one.